facts, truths, and sometimes the unpopular opinion. Today we're going to be talking about the polygraph test, and I know we've all saw it in the interviews, and we've all got our own decisions about it, and most of them being, why wasn't he asked about the girls, and why was there just the three basic little questions? And I understand they have to ask just yes or no questions, but there's several yes or no questions that I really wish had been asked instead of the three, just pretty much asking the same question but in a different aspect. I think I could have took those other two questions and put the girls in it somewhere. But anyway, we're going to look over the actual discovery document of the polygraph, and it's going to be taking place from the beginning on up until the polygraph was done. So there was a lot of talk that Tammy Lee and Chris had amongst each other before the polygraph was taken, so I don't know if all of you have heard that. A lot of times you can't hear everything Chris is saying, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a read through of it, and I think you're going to find some things in here that may spark your interest. So let's get into this and then we'll talk about it. So this is just the first page of it. They actually made the report on the 21st, and we know that the polygraph and interview was on the 15th. On the synopsis, Frederick Police Department Detective Dave Baumhover requested the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, agent Tammy Lee to conduct a polygraph on Christopher Lee Watts. The polygraph was done in reference to Watts' possible involvement or knowledge in the disappearance of his pregnant wife and their two young daughters. Watts showed deception indicated on his polygraph. And then it goes to show their home address, of course, Chris's home address, and then it just shows the victim information. That is Bella, and then there is Celeste, and that would be discovery page 578. Okay, going on down, there's Celeste, Shanann, and then the subject being Chris. Action taken. On Wednesday, August the 15th, 2018, Christopher Watts voluntarily consented to a recorded polygraph interview. The interview took place at the Frederick Police Department, which was located at, and it gives the address. It was my understanding the primary purpose of the interview was to determine if Watts had any knowledge or involvement in the disappearance of his wife and two young daughters. The day before the polygraph interview, I assisted the Frederick Police Department with the initial investigation into the disappearance of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. I also observed a voluntary interview with Chris, which was conducted the prior evening by FBI Special Agent Graham Coder. During the interview with Coder, Watts denied having any knowledge regarding the whereabouts of his wife and children. Watts was also adamant there was no infidelity in his marriage of any kind. Coder asked Chris if he would be willing to take a polygraph, and Chris agreed. Chris stated he had to pick up his father, later identified as Ronnie Watts, age 62, from the airport early the next morning. So the polygraph was scheduled for Wednesday, August the 15th at 2018 at 11 a.m. Chris then left the Frederick Police Department for the evening. It should be noted that approximately 3 hours before the polygraph was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m., I received a phone call from Anadarko Regional Security Manager Tony Husky. Husky advised he had reviewed Chris's computer network traffic, and it was possible Chris had started a relationship with an Anadarko contracted employee. Husky advised he located emails between Chris and the contracted employee who he identified as Nicole Nikki Kessinger, age 30. So see, they already knew August the 15th at 8 a.m. A lot of people believes that Nicole was the first to come forward and tell police officers about the affair. That is absolutely not true. They knew about Nicole early that morning, and Nicole did not go to law enforcement until 5:30 that evening. So they were well aware of her. They were well aware of her when they were giving this interview to Chris. However, Chris didn't know they already knew that. Put that out there, and so everybody knows for a fact that Nicole coming forward was not any kind of bombshell proof of anything, because they already knew about her. And I truly believe somehow that information got back to Nicole, and that's why she went ahead and called them, because she wanted to come forward before they had the opportunity to come to her. That is my personal opinion, but I don't think it's too far from the truth. Okay, let's go right along on into this. Husky said it appeared a relationship between Chris and Kessinger started around June of 2018. Now that's what he was seeing in the emails. Remember, it was early June when we saw those Anadarko emails. Husky further explained Kessinger was on the geosciences side of the company and helped to survey land. Husky explained Chris and Kessinger worked out of the same office in Platteville, Colorado. Husky advised he would be forwarding the emails to law enforcement as soon as it was cleared by their legal department. The emails received by Husky are attached to this report. On Wednesday, August the 15th, 2018, at approximately 11 a.m., Coder met Chris in the lobby of the Frederick Police Department and escorted him to a private interview room inside the police department. Chris was wearing a short-sleeved North Carolina Tar Heels t-shirt, black athletic shorts, and black flip-flops with no wedding ring. I greeted Chris inside the interview room and the door was shut. I told Chris the door automatically locks from the inside, but there was a key inserted into the lock that could be turned to open the door. I also explained to Chris the door was shut for privacy, but he was not under arrest and could leave at any time. Chris said he understood. It should be noted I was not wearing a gun, a badge, handcuffs, magazines, or any other police gear during the polygraph and interview. CBI's polygraph procedures were explained to Chris. I read Chris his Miranda rights and explained to him that he did not have to talk to me. Chris signed the advisements of rights form stating he understood his rights and wished to continue with the interview and polygraph. Chris also signed a consent form indicating his willingness to undergo a polygraph examination. During the pre-test interview, Chris told me the following. Note: below is only a summary of our conversation. Please review the attached transcript, audio file, and video recordings in their entireties for full details of this interview. All of that we have already saw, correct? And if you haven't saw it, then let me know and I'll get them up here in our archives for you to see. With regard to Chris's background and upbringing, growing up he lived with his mother, father, and sister Jamie. His father worked as a parts manager for a Ford dealership. His mother worked as a secretary and notary for a used car dealership. So it looks like cars and mechanics and all that kind of stuff was just bred into the whole family for the most part. Mom, Dad, and Chris just kind of stepped right into their shadow. Jamie is 7 years older than him. He gets along well with Jamie and her husband. He just saw Jamie and her family during his recent visit to North Carolina. He was in North Carolina from August the 1st through the 7th of 2018. Growing up, his family attended First Baptist Church on a fairly regular basis. I have heard people also say that they don't believe Chris was raised in church or that he was religious. Well, he was, and he comes from the Baptist religion. He was always the quiet kid who followed the rules. Jamie was the rebellious child in the family. Jamie left numerous times after high school and would always move back home. His father was the disciplinarian of the family. His father would not use physical discipline, but he would raise his voice. His father struggled with substance abuse after Chris moved out, which Chris later said it was some kind of powder, a white powder, so he assumed it was cocaine, that Ronnie had gotten in a depression and he got addicted to cocaine after he left the house to go away to college. It was hard on his father when Chris left because his father was used to Chris always being around. His father is his hero and his best friend. You know, that's really sweet and all in a sense, but at the same time, if you'll notice, most of the time married couples, if they really get along really well and, you know, usually your spouse is your best friend. I can see maybe the father being the hero, but it seems like Shanann should have been his best friend. They were in life together, you know. They were a couple, they were one. You know, just like the song says, when you get married, two become one. But anyway, after he graduated high school, he moved to Morrisville, North Carolina. He attended NASCAR College in Morrisville, North Carolina. NASCAR College was a mechanical school. He understands numbers and math very well. From 2001 to 2012, he worked for Morrisville Ford. From 2012 to 2014, he worked at Longmont Ford in Colorado. So see, he worked at Morrisville Ford for quite a long time. I mean, it looks like he worked there for 11 years. And then when he moved to Colorado, he picked right up at Longmont Ford, and he only worked there 2 years. Shanann worked with him there as well. While he worked for Ford, he developed the onset of carpal tunnel in both of his hands. Since leaving Ford, he no longer had pain in his hands. And that's because Shanann noticed he was having problems with grasping and such as that, and so she was like, I think you're getting carpal tunnel from all the mechanic work and moving the wrenches and all that, and she was concerned about him. So she went out on a limb to try to find him a different job that would make him more comfortable and not have to be in pain with the carpal tunnel. So see, she helped him there. He would have continued to do that work, but she helped him because she was concerned. In 2014, he worked for Covenant Testing Technologies, an oil field contractor. In January of 2015, he was hired to work at Anadarko. He currently works as a field coordinator at Anadarko, and he usually helps his guys in the field and tries to get everyone off of work by 3 or 3:30 p.m. He usually starts his day at 6:30 a.m. every day. Some people at work call him Rain Man because if he goes to an oil site once, he will remember it. He stayed the prior evening, Tuesday, August the 14th, at Nick and Amanda Thayer's house. He met Amanda while she was a director at Primrose School where Bella and Cece attended. Amanda currently works as a downline from Shanann in the company Thrive. Seems like everyone they know almost quit their jobs that they were doing and just went into the Thrive business full time. Thrive sells vitamins and minerals that are all plant-based. Thrive is a 3-step system which includes capsules in the morning, a protein shake with water, and a patch you wear on your skin. Thrive is extremely healthy. Chris weighed 245 pounds before he started using Thrive in 2016. Chris is a downline from Shanann, but she sells it for him. Shanann knows he is not a seller and told him he would tell people too much about the product. Well, that's odd. I mean, how would you tell somebody too much about the product? People should know everything about it if they're going to put it in and on their body, so what's too much? One person at his work, Troy McCoy, buys Thrive from him. He and McCoy are both field supervisors for Anadarko. He and McCoy have hung out a few times outside of work with their families. Now, Troy's interview is pretty interesting. It really is. He's also known as the fire stick guy. Him and Troy were pretty close. They were actually, besides Nicole, the only two at Anadarko that really hang out together. That is what his boss, Luke Epple, said in his interview. So Troy's interview is worth listening to, for real. Chris and Troy have hung out together a few times outside of their work with their families. With regard to his relationship with Shanann, he met Shanann in 2010 through Facebook. His cousin's wife recommended he and Shanann become friends on Facebook. He started talking to Shanann and they had their first date at a movie theater. Shanann was not impressed with him because he came to the date very underdressed. He and Shanann's second date was at a rock concert. He and Shanann spent their third date at Myrtle Beach. Shanann suffered from lupus and it was acting up on their date at Myrtle Beach. On the drive back from Myrtle Beach, she laid on his lap the entire time. Shanann realized he was a really nice guy because he let her lay on his lap for 2.5 hours. He proposed to Shanann in 2011 at Ocean Isle Beach. Shanann was very OCD about organization and planned the entire wedding. In November of 2012, he and Shanann got married at the Doubletree Hilton in North Carolina. Their wedding was amazing. They spent their honeymoon in Myrtle Beach. And in December of 2013, their daughter Bella was born. Bella was a gift because doctors warned Shanann may not be able to have children due to her lupus. In July of 2015, Cece was born. Bella was a mama's girl and Cece was a daddy's girl. Cece was rambunctious and was always moving until she fell asleep. Cece loved riding in the airplane on the way back from North Carolina. So as you see, he talks more about Cece than he does Bella. And from what I've seen in the videos, I know both girls love both their mom and dad. There was no question about that. But it kind of reminds me of my daughter and her first husband, which he's passed away now, but with my two granddaughters, because my two granddaughters are about the same age difference as Bella and Cece. And the oldest one, yeah, she was always really stuck to her mom. Well, the second one came along and she was like Cece, my second granddaughter. She was like Cece as a child, just always really hyper and into everything, and she was just wide open. She started walking at 9 months old. And the thing I'm getting at here is my daughter, she had already gotten to where she was used to the routine with the oldest one and this and that and the other, and her attitude, because she was like Bella, really laid back, really quiet, almost like an old soul for a child. So my daughter actually couldn't control the youngest one hardly at all. Her husband, the dad, she would say, get her, get her, get her, I can't handle her. And then he would. And I believe that could have been kind of the scenario with that. I think Chris was always the one getting Cece, running her down, picking her up, patting her during her temper tantrums and all that kind of thing. And that's why the bond between those two got so tight. Just like with my two granddaughters. Same thing. Shanann and Chris and the two girls remind me so much of my daughter, her husband, and my two granddaughters. It's crazy. It's unreal. But they really do. Okay, going on down. He was excited when he found out Shanann was pregnant with their third child. Shanann had an ultrasound the prior week, August the 8th, 2018. And they found out they were having a little boy. Shanann used fertility drugs with both Bella and Cece. Shanann was not using any fertility drugs when she got pregnant with their third child. They only tried twice when Shanann got pregnant with their son. Shanann believes she got pregnant because she was using Thrive and had a much healthier lifestyle. Shanann did not suffer with postpartum with any of her pregnancies. Shanann found out she was pregnant with their son the first or second week of June 2018. Shanann is currently 14 to 15 weeks pregnant. With regard to the family's recent trip to North Carolina, he and Shanann returned from San Diego on June the 26th, 2018. Shanann's father watched the girls while they were in San Diego. Later the same day, June the 26th, 2018, Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Shanann's father flew to North Carolina. While in North Carolina, Shanann and the girls visited both sides of their family. Shanann needed to meet up with some of her promoters and customers while she was in North Carolina. Shanann wanted both sets of grandparents to watch Bella and Cece while she was working. Cece's birthday occurred during the trip to North Carolina, so they had a birthday party for her. Shanann FaceTimed him during the birthday party so he could watch it. While Shanann and the girls stayed in North Carolina, he stayed at home, worked out, ran, and kept the house together. He stayed with Nicole. That's all he did. He said he didn't even stay one night at his house. He flew out to North Carolina on July the 31st, 2018, so he could fly back to Colorado with Shanann and the girls. He spent a week in North Carolina with his family. The night he arrived in North Carolina, he stayed at Shanann's parents' house. The following day, he, Shanann, and the girls drove to the beach, North Myrtle Beach, and stayed there for 4 to 5 days. It was the first time his daughters had ever seen the beach. Cece loved the beach and her bathing suit was full of seashells. There again, he's referring to Cece and hasn't said anything about Bella. He was able to visit his parental grandmother in the nursing home. His grandmother lights up when she sees his daughters. His dad came and picked him up, and he spent the day with his parents. And he also said while he was at his parents that Nicole was just texting him back to back. He could barely even have time to speak to his parents or spend any time with his parents because she was blowing up his phone. He also ran around his parents' house and took pictures with his phone of portraits and his childhood pictures. And I still believe that is because Nicole asked him to take some pictures when he was a little boy because she wanted to see what he looked like. That's what I personally think. He hung out with his parents and visited with his sister and her family. On August the 7th, 2018, he and Shanann packed up and flew back home to Colorado. On August the 8th, 2018, he returned to work. Okay, in Luke Apple's interview, that is on our channel, he said that when Chris came back to work, he told him that him and Shanann were having problems. He told Luke that because of the GPS in his truck, he wanted him to know that he was probably going to be starting to stay with a friend and not staying at his own home anymore because him and Shanann were separating. So that was August the 8th. So he already had plans at that point to leave Shanann. And I'm thinking he was probably going to be staying with Nicole because he didn't have any money to go rent anything, and he didn't have any close personal friends there that wasn't friends with Shanann as well. And nobody else knew they were in the middle of a separation except Nicole. So that is the only friend that I can think he would be referring to where he would be staying. So obviously him and Nicole had talked about that, or he wouldn't have brought it up to Luke in case Luke saw it on the GPS in his truck. So that was obviously talked about. I mean, he wouldn't jump the fence there and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to be staying home anymore. You know, my GPS shows him somewhere else. Don't make nothing of it because I'm just staying with a friend because me and Shanann are separated. No, he wouldn't have done that. He would have had prior arrangements made with Nicole before he told Luke that. And I'm sure Nicole even knew. I'm sure he even told Nicole, or Nicole told him to tell Luke, hey, you need to tell Luke because of the GPS in the truck, you need to tell him that if your truck isn't picking up at home every evening, that you're staying with a friend. You need to tell him that, or they're going to start questioning you. But yes, there was definitely prior arrangements with him and Nicole because that's the only friend. If you can think of a different friend that he could have been talking about, let me know. Because he even said himself they didn't really have any friends there, just Thrive friends. And all his friends were her friends, so yeah. On August the 10th, 2018, Shanann flew out to Arizona with her friend Nicole Atkinson. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cut off part 1 here. I will have part 2 uploaded here shortly. My internet's been kind of acting kind of funny lately, and it's been really slow to download and upload anything. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off here and be looking for part 2 because I will be having it uploaded here within the next day or so. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.